The Sad Santas by Leanne Herring.
Ow! You are stepping on my foot!
Yelled a squashed fairy.
Move out of my way!
Snapped the snowman.
Stop pushing!
Shouted the red-nosed reindeer.
Shh! The box is opening. None of you will be at the top of the tree this year if you don't stop arguing,
hushed the glittered baubles. The shiny decorations smiled brightly as Annie lifted the lid from the big brown box they had been snugly sharing all year. Annie started to place each of the impressive figurines carefully on the branches of her Christmas tree. They all twirled and swirled, proudly showing off their festive splendour. Sugarplum, the tree fairy, peered down from her tree-top branch to watch as Annie reached inside the box to get the last of the items.
Oh no, she's not going to put those things on the tree with us again, is she?
She said, crossly folding her arms in protest. Sugarplum was referring to the two tattered and torn cardboard tubes Annie held in her hands.
I mean, they don't even look a bit like Santa anymore,
complained the red-nosed reindeer.
Why would she think they look good compared to us? Such messy old decorations are simply an embarrassment to share a branch with,
tutted the grumpy snowman.
She might finally throw them in the bin this year,
replied the blue bauble. Sugarplum gasped and shook her head as two tired-looking Santas were placed on the branch next to her.
This must be a joke. You can't have them next to something as beautiful as me.
Annie smiled as she stood back to admire her fully decorated tree before heading off to bed. Apart from the two little Santas, the rest of the Christmas decorations had all come from an expensive shop, and therefore they thought Annie would surely prefer to look at them instead. So that night, the angry decorations planned to capture the little Santas and hide them away, never to be seen by anyone looking at that beautiful tree again. The smiles of the little paper Santas slowly turned to frowns as they were scooped up and hidden amongst the pine needles at the bottom of the Christmas tree. Afterwards, the rest of the decorations simply returned to their branches and soon forgot all about the two hidden sad Santas. A few days went by and Christmas was getting closer. The pretty decorations noticed how Annie had stopped smiling each time she looked up at the tree. They were very confused and had no idea why she now appeared so glum. As the baffled decorations started to argue over what was making Annie sad, they were suddenly interrupted by a loud knock at the door, followed by three excitable voices heading towards the tree.
Annie must have visitors,
said the reindeer, jumping up and down.
Oh, I'm so glad that I look my best,
boasted Sugarplum.
Visitors will definitely look at me first.
The decorations watched eagerly as a surprised Annie was greeted by the arrival of her three children, who are now all grown up and carrying piles of presents to put under the tree. The sad little Santas shuffled forwards from their hidden spot under the tree and peered through the pine needles. They slowly started to smile again as they saw Annie's children, who looked so much bigger now, but the little Santas still remembered them fondly.
I hope she cheers up now,
said the snowman.
Annie doesn't seem to have visitors very often.
As Annie's daughter started to put presents under the tree, she noticed the two sad Santas staring back up at her. She stopped to pull them both out from the tangled branches.
Mum,
she laughed,
I can't believe you still have these two little Santas after all these years.
Suddenly, a huge smile formed back on Annie's face.
Oh, you found them? I was sure I put them on the tree, but then they'd completely vanished. I thought I'd lost them.
Annie took the little cardboard tubes from her daughter and put them back on the tree where they belonged.
They may seem like silly old decorations to some, explained Annie, but the little Santas were the first gifts you ever made me when you had just started school. You're all grown up now with your own Christmas trees, but these two funny old things will always remind me of that moment.
That night, the rest of the tree decorations gathered around the little Santas. Realizing what they had all done, The snowman tipped his hat in apology.
We now understand why Annie was sad. You both mean so much to her, more than any shiny new decoration from a shop.
I think we should put Sugar Plum at the back of the tree for telling us to hide you,
added the reindeer.
Do you want me to leave?
Asked a deeply sorry Sugar Plum. The first little Santa shook his tattered, dusty head.
We were all chosen to be on the branches of this tree for a reason. Every decoration in the box we share holds a memory, old or new,
he said softly.
But which decoration should be at the top of the tree now?
Asked the confused snowman. The two Santas looked at each other and said with a knowing wink, We have an idea. Christmas morning arrived, and Annie proudly looked at her tree, showing memories old and new. However, Annie did think it was rather odd how she could not remember moving any of the decorations to the new positions they were in. But she didn't mind. Her smile was back, and so were her two little Santas, sat proudly at the top of the tree with the rest of the decorations. A few Christmases later.
Nanny Annie, look what I made for you.
Oh, here we go again.
The end.